Tonight, our next guest is a gentleman we had on before, and we are so honored to have him back on again. Our guest coming up here in just a second is Mark Anthony. Mark Anthony is the psychic lawyer. He's a practicing medium who not only communicates with spirits, he's also a successful attorney licensed to practice law in Florida, Washington, D.C., and before the United States Supreme Court. Mark graduated from Mercer Law School with honors, which included the study of law at Oxford University in England. He has studied mediumship in England at the Arthur Findlay College for the advancement of psychic science. Mark is a published author of the bestseller Never Letting Go, which is the definitive guide to healing grief with help from the other side. Without any further delay, let's go ahead and bring Mark on. Mark, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk. Welcome back to K-Talk and the Fringe Radio Show.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here. How's everything in Utah?
It's great.
Yeah, beautiful day today, Mark. It's 70 degrees, and although springtime, I feel sorry for everybody on the East Coast. I mean, winter in the Midwest just has not given up. Yeah. And Carol and I were talking. Spring set in a month and a half ago.
It was 80
here.
yesterday.
Yeah,
so.
80 degrees yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. I almost feel guilty living in Florida because this winter really wasn't too bad for us, and the springtime has just been great. And the rest of the country, people are really enduring a very difficult winter. So, my thoughts and prayers go out to all you folks on. And I'm glad that you guys are enjoying some really nice mountain weather.
Yeah, I'm glad you are too. It's beautiful.
It's been beautiful. I
think we have a storm coming in tonight.
We do, but I mean today's still in the 70s, and we had a pretty ferocious winter. It was actually very nice up until Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving week hit, the snow came, we went down into sub-zero temperatures, and it stayed that way until about the end of January, and then it's been 50s and 40s, 50s, 60s.
Yeah, but the back east has been
horrible.
But
back east, yeah. I mean, the East Coast and a lot of our listeners that listen to us through the Internet up in the Northeast and the Midwest, I mean, they just keep getting hit and hit and hit. Anyway, it's an honor to have you back on again, Mark.
Yes, it is.
For our listeners that didn't listen last time, why don't you give us a little bit of the background, how you kind of got into what you got into and growing up psychic, and just let's hear it again. It's such an amazing story, man.
Well, it really just happened because both of my parents have psychic abilities, and it runs on both sides of my family, both on my mother's and my father's side of the family. And it's funny when I would listen to the stories about my parents, how they met. They met at a dance. My dad had just gotten out of the Navy, and it was something like a USO dance or something like that. And my dad, he said he looked across the room and he saw this very sophisticated, elegant woman, because my mom used to be in fashion design, so she always had all the designer duds at, discount prices. And she said she saw this handsome young sailor, and they both said there was something about each other that just drew them to each other. And as they got to know one another better, it's like, well, I have a secret, I see dead people. Really, I do too. And it appears to be a hereditary trait that runs in both families. And without getting into a protracted discussion of genetics, recessive traits would be like, let's say in a family where everyone has brown hair and brown eyes, you may have somebody with blonde hair and blue eyes, or left-handedness is a recessive trait. So when you get two parents that both have the recessive trait, it is very likely that one or all of their children will have it. And apparently I got the full package from both sides. And so when I was about 3-4 years old, I started talking to people that, quote-unquote, weren't there. And my parents were really cool about it because, guess what, they could see them too, and they didn't chastise me for it, although they were very protective.
That's awesome. That's a sweet story, though. That's a nice story.
It was really nice growing up in that environment.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't treat me like I was a freak or a weirdo, because I know a lot of mediums whose childhoods were just a nightmare. At least mine wasn't at home. Going to Catholic school and being the weird kid that saw dead people, that was a whole different story. So.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
But did they, now, this is something that you experienced from a very early age, correct?
Yes, I've never thought of it as strange or weird. And a lot of people, and I know that Utah, is a lot of Mormon, a lot of folks there, and I live in Florida, which is technically part of the South. and the Bible Belt. And a lot of people say, oh, it's against God, and they get all bent out of shape for religious reasons. And, my great-grandfather on my father's side of the family was a Baptist minister, and on my mother's side of the family, they were extremely devout Catholics who had emigrated from Italy, and both of them looked at this as a gift from God and something to be used to help people.
Right.
And so just because a particular scripture or whatever says one thing, there are plenty of other scriptures which actually say, like in Romans 12 verses 6 through 8, we all have gifts from God, and if your gift is one of prophecy, then you should prophesy. So there's plenty of things to support this. And quite frankly, I don't worry too much about that because I focus on my connection with God and my born-again friends, and because I have friends from all faiths. In fact, Monday night I'm going to a Passover dinner. A good friend of mine who's Jewish, I've known him since I've been 10 years old. They invite us every year. We always invite him over for Christmas dinner. It's just sort of a thing that our families do with each other. And we all have our own personal relationship and connection with God. And when you're doing the right thing. And when you're acting out of love instead of out of a self-centered, egoistic desire. And that's what it's all about. And so that's how my parents kind of taught me about my abilities. They told me that not everybody understands us. Some people are going to think we're weird, but you know what? That's their problem, not ours.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Well, and it's the one thing, Mark, that I find intriguing about this, if you want to call it a gift phenomena, something that you're born with. So many people, and I think things are definitely starting to change, and people are looking at it differently. But I mean, of not that many, to have parents like your parents that were open-minded about it. There are a lot of parents, I think, that kids, their abilities get stifled down. I think when some of these young children talk about, their imaginary friends or what have you, maybe that people need to look a little bit deeper into it and not just say, hey, the kid's a little crazy, let's get them on Ritalin or something like that, or here in Utah especially. I mean, sad to say, but a lot of the doctors they just love to write a prescription. I mean, there's so many kids here in this state that aren't even the age of 12 or 13, and they're taking Prozac and stuff. And people need to be a little bit more open-minded and explore some of these things, and not right away look for some sort of a chemical. Some sort of a drug to stifle this because they may have something there.
We live in a society where everybody wants an immediate gratification, an immediate fix, and ergo there must be a pill for it. I read an article one time about bipolar personalities and ADHD personalities,
right.
And it was like Galileo, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Edison. They went through this whole list of people that if they had been born today would probably be so heavily medicated that they would never have achieved any of the things that they did. When you look at some of the greatest works of art, literature, and music are created by people that were either suffering with grief, and I discuss that a lot in my book, Never Letting Go, and also people that were always grappling with their quote-unquote inner demons. I mean, if you look at someone like John Lennon, incredibly brilliant songwriter, and he said that it all came from his pain. And you'd see that also with Auguste Rodin, the great sculptor, and you could go on and on. So, we really need to get back to learning how to deal with our problems and our situations instead of just medicating everyone. When I was a child and I went to Catholic school, the children that had the ADHD and to get up and run around, they would assign an adult to them that would sit them down and make them do their lesson. Now, let's face it, it's more fun to text, to play with a video game, and to play with your computer than it is to sit there and do an algebra problem.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? A lot of times study and learning is pretty dry stuff, but that doesn't mean you should not learn how to do it. And we've gotten away from some of the basics. The same thing with psychic abilities. If your child starts exhibiting paranormal, and I don't even know if I like the word paranormal. Mm-hmm. I know we all use it, and we put it in our shows and all this, and I love the name of your show, The Fringe, and all this. But the fact of the matter is everybody is capable of a psychic experience. Everybody is capable of a mediumistic experience. doesn't necessarily mean we're all technically psychics or mediums.
Right.
Exactly.
But we all have the same equipment. I mean, how many of you, let me ask both of you. Carol, let me ask you this. You have women's intuition?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Pat, what about men's gut instinct?
Sure, all the time.
Yeah, but I tell him a lot. I'm like, he's got to trust his instinct more because sometimes he doesn't.
And that's a very good point. And it's all stemming from our emotions. The thing is, when you receive a vibrational impulse, it comes into us and is interpreted through emotions. Women traditionally have been socialized to accept and embrace their emotions, whereas men, the only public emotion which is acceptable for us to demonstrate in public is anger. Mm-hmm. And so, which has worked really well for,
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, let's start the wars,
And sometimes it does work well.
Well, yeah, right. Uh-huh.
No.
Sure.
Yeah, I think Putin needs to, learn how to accept his inner feelings. But the thing is, with both your Carol, your intuition, and Pat, your gut instinct. Mm-hmm. Whenever you've overruled it, have you A, been happy you did, or B, wished that you had listened to it?
Yeah, definitely.
Usually wished I listened to it.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing too is sometimes you pick the vibes you pick up on people. You have to trust yourself. If you meet somebody and you get like them little warning signs, don't, sometimes it's really weird. I don't know.
Not every handsome man with pearly white teeth
and
washboard abs is good.
Well, there's some people you meet that you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to get close to that person, just the vibes you get off of them.
Exactly. Not every gorgeous woman is going to make your life better. I remember seeing the stand-up comedian. He was talking about that movie, The Wizard of Oz. He said, yeah, it taught us really important lessons. Beautiful people are good, and ugly people are evil, and it's okay to kill them. And I'm thinking, that's kind of been warped into our consciousness with all these shows and movies and such. And when we begin to trust our feelings, mm-hmm. and it's true, you can meet somebody and you get a vibe off them, and most of the time you're right on point with that. And just because somebody may be physically attractive or incredibly charming does not necessarily mean that their intentions and motives are good. I'm not saying be suspicious and paranoid of everyone that you meet. Certainly you don't want to do that, but you want to trust your instinct.
Yes,
and the reason that I bring that up is we all have that. And both of you answered the question saying, yeah, I wish I would listen to my instinct more in situations. Ergo, you have both had psychic experiences.
Yeah, well, one example I had was years ago. It's been about almost 5 years ago. I had to run, and I was working out of it's about 40 miles away from home. My daughter, we were opening a second store at the time when we had a hobby store back then. But anyhow, we were going to work, and my daughter wanted to go with me. She's like, "Can I go with you?" And I had this feeling like I don't want her to be in the truck. I had a Jeep at the time, and I'm like, "No, you're not going with me." And she's like, "Come on, Mom, let me go." I'm like, "No," because I knew I'd be driving home late at night, and I just had a bad feeling. And so I said, you know what, you can go with me to pay bills, but I'm bringing you home. You're not going with me tonight. And she pleaded and stuff, and I said no. And on the way home, I got rear-ended by a construction truck. And if she would have been in that car, she went right through the windshield because there was no airbag on that side. So it was like,
see, exactly. And
something told me don't let her go. And no, so
you've got to listen to it.
You do.
Absolutely got to listen to these things.
Can Mark? We've got a lady that actually called in before the show started and wanted to talk with you. We got a lot of questions, a lot of things we'd like to touch. But is it okay? She's been on hold for quite some time because
sure, that's absolutely
she
fine.
would love to talk with you. So let's go ahead and bring her on the show. Caller, good evening. Welcome to Fringe Radio. You're on with Mark Anthony.
Hello, Mr. Anthony. How are you this evening?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty okay.
Are you on a speakerphone?
Yes, I am. Should I take it off speaker?
Yeah, because what happens is it creates an additional level of distortion, and if you want me to do any type of tuning in, it's all about frequency, and the clearer the transmission, the better the connection.
Okay. Is this much better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I know that it's probably asking a lot, but I was trying to connect with someone who's on the other side. Should I just give you a name, or what would?
How about just the connection, like the relationship? Say like it's a cousin, a brother, or something like that. So I can tune in.
He's Mm-hmm.
The thing is, when I open up the frequency, you may not always get the person you want to talk to first. So this way we're kind of putting it out there to see if that person will come in.
That's fair enough. It's my younger brother.
Okay, hold on a second.
Thank you.
All right. There is a male energy coming through, and I'm getting kind of an outdoorsy guy. Now, before we assume this is your brother, this could be another male connected to you. Let me describe him. Did he have something to do with like ducks and water birds and I'm getting outdoors and a lot of birds, a lot of I keep seeing a lot of ducks and a lot of water associated with him.
No, I don't think so.
Hello?
I'm here. No.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Okay.
Oh, no,
when I
sir.
get ducks, that can also indicate this time of year, which would be the Easter time frame, which would be between the middle of March and the middle of April. So let's say March 15th through April 15th. Is there a significant event related to you in that time frame? That could be a birth, death, anniversary.
My birthday falls within that period.
Exactly. Okay, and your brother knows this, and that's why he's giving that to me now. And he was not an outdoorsy type person.
I wouldn't say so.
Okay, because I keep getting a guy that seems like he was very sort of mechanically inclined, real sort of Mr. Fix-It, that type. And what I also get about him is that he was not overly talkative. He was he kept things to himself, but when he said something, it's because he had something to say. I'm also tasting a lot of coffee. That could relate to him or relate to you. Is he a big coffee drinker?
No, maybe it's just all the Pepsi that I drink.
Oh, you're the caffeine person.
Yes.
Okay, and not coffee, just Pepsi.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. And he didn't drink coffee at all.
Not that I was aware of. Possibly.
Make a note of that because that may be something you're going to need to find out. Because what I'm getting from him is not Pepsi. I'm getting like real strong coffee. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the other thing I'm getting with him is that his passing feels to me that it came on very suddenly. It's like I'm feeling this impact to my head. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he had an impact to his head. That's how I manifest.
No, you're correct. You're correct.
Okay. Getting impact to the head, and it was so unexpected. And the thing is,
that's correct.
He was going through a lot emotionally prior to this happening, and it's as if he was going through a period of turmoil and had begun to resolve it, and he was really looking forward to a new day, and then all of a sudden this happened to him, and that was that. And he keeps showing me the number 4141. Now that could be 41, that could be 14, that could relate to April, that could relate to January. And he's also showing me the number 75, and that could be it could be like July or May, but that could be 75 or 57 or the number 7 or the number 5. Does any of that make sense?
Not the numbers, maybe the 4-1 if you added to make 5. He didn't just die by himself, and I was just wanting to find out if you.
Well, I also give you the number 75, which could be either 5 or 7. Okay.
Okay.
So why does 5 make sense?
There is 5 in our family and 5 in his family.
Okay. All right. Now you had a question.
Yes, I just wanted to know: was he murdered, or possibly did he take his own life?
Hold on a second. He would not murder himself. He would not kill himself.
I didn't think so.
Okay, that went
May I just
contrary
ask you this question?
to... Hold on, don't interrupt. And there's a reason
sorry.
for that. See, it breaks the contact. You got to, whenever you're dealing with a medium, do not interrupt, do not talk over, wait till we're done. Okay, that would go against every grain, every fiber of his being to take his own life. And your brother knew that no matter how bad things are, he could overcome them. The problem is It's like he led a dual life. There was this squeaky clean veneer that he projected, and yet there was a darker side to him. And when I say darker, I don't necessarily mean evil, okay, but there was a sense of desperation about him, and there was a lot of things going on with him that he wasn't happy about. So on one hand, I connected with friends and family. He looked really great and above board, and yet there was this whole subterranean world that he was connected to. All right, now you can comment.
Okay. I didn't think he murdered himself, and the police thought it was a murder-suicide. Do you feel anyone else around him in his family?
I try to do one
because
spirit
he didn't
per
die by
person
himself.
in these mini readings, because here's the thing. What I would suggest, if you want a longer reading, contact my website, neverlettinggo.com, because here's the thing. We could get into something here which is going to chew up, I don't mean chew up, but it's going to consume like 20, 30 minutes, and we may have other callers we need to get to. And for the benefit of the listeners, people that call in, we go for one spirit per person, because I try to get to as many people as possible. And I really
just wanted to
appreciate
ensure that you touched on something that was correct, so I definitely will contact you, and I will send you an email this evening.
Very sorry for your loss. And let me explain. Earlier when I said don't interrupt, for your benefit and for the benefit of the listeners, I wasn't meaning to come across as rude or curt. Let me explain what happened.
Oh no, I didn't take it rude.
I need to explain this. When I open up to frequency, and this can be said of any medium, what happens is with frequency transfer, information comes to us like in a wave, and that's the nature of frequency emissions. And when a wave is coming through me, what I want to do is describe everything that I'm seeing, hearing, feeling, and experiencing so you get as much information as possible. And when people interrupt and talk over me, and the thing is, you didn't know, what happens is it can break the connection, and I may miss some information that I want to get for you. Okay, so I wasn't intending to when I say don't interrupt, I didn't mean it to come across in any rude way whatsoever.
Oh no, I didn't take it rudely. Just a quick question. It says on your website that you have like a 90-day wait-in period.
Yeah. Go ahead and contact through the website as opposed to going through all that right now.
Okay, because I need to speak to the police shortly, and I couldn't wait 90 days. Do you think if I sent you an email to tell you that I spoke to you on the phone that...
Ma'am, there are people who have been waiting a year and a half to get a reading with me, and everybody wants a reading yesterday. Okay, so instead of discussing that, please go through my website. I have a staff that handles that, because the thing is, I don't want to know anything about people ahead of time. I don't want to know anything that may taint the reading. All right? So God bless you, and thank you for calling.
Thank you. You've been very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening. And God bless you.
God bless you. Very interesting. Mark, you want to take another one?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, now, for the benefit of the callers,
okay.
I'm going to be describing things that I'm seeing, hearing, and feeling, and you've got to think about what I'm saying before you immediately say no, because what happens is images and concepts come in, and sometimes they need to build. It's like when I was talking about birds and waterfowl and things like that, what I was seeing was ducks, and what happens is certain images and visions have more than one level of significance. I was getting an outdoorsy type guy, which is also a mechanically inclined type of gentleman, which the caller eventually identified. Ducks also indicate to me the springtime, like around Easter, and when I gave her that time frame, that was the time frame that matched up. So give the information, think about it for a second before you respond.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Linda, you're on with Mark Anthony.
Hi, Mr. Anthony.
Hi, Linda. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Last year was probably the most difficult year of my life, and this year I climbed out of it. It was a bad relationship, really bad, and I'm in the dating mode, and I was wondering if you could help me, give me some advice about who I am and where I should go and how to not make the same mistake again.
But see, Linda, what we've been discussing is that I'm a psychic medium and I communicate with people on the other side, okay? And this is, I'm glad that you see, while I'm a psychic medium and while I do pick up on future events and things like that, my forte is not love life, career, and future events. It is communicating with people on the other side. So for the benefit of the other callers, please don't call in with love life, career, relationship, future event calls. It's only if you want to communicate with spirits on the other side.
Can I have the luxury of asking you about my late husband then?
Absolutely. Okay, there's a gentleman coming through, and what I'm getting with him is I'm feeling pain and pressure that starts in my lymph glands in my throat, go down through my throat into my chest. It's like from my chin all the way down into my stomach. It's like that whole area I'm feeling tightness, pain, and pressure. Does this make sense?
It does, exactly.
Okay. And I'll tell you one thing he really, really wants you to know is how loving and how compassionate and how patient you were with him.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay? And he keeps showing me the color red and the color white. Color red and the color white. And it's interesting because it's like a package with a big red bow on it. Okay. Just out of curiosity, do red and white, the colors red and white in combination make sense to you in any way?
Not at this moment, no. No.
All right. A lot of things that come through in a reading may not make sense right away, and there's something about red and white. And that could be a team he liked, it could be a color he liked, it could be...
Oh, yeah, he liked the University of Utah team. They were red and white.
Bingo. And see, the thing is, I have absolutely no idea what the colors of the University of Utah are, because I've never even been to Utah. Red and white. So there you go. Okay? Mm-hmm. And that's what I was talking about before. A lot of times we've got to think about the significance. Okay. We always on him, and I know lots of wives are with their husbands, but this is something's bringing through about what he was eating. Like, it seems like he was kind of shying away from a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Okay. And he wasn't always paying attention when he was driving. Does this make sense?
Not with me, because I was a backseat driver.
Okay, now so the concept is paying attention while driving. So maybe someone was distracting him. All right, so that makes sense. All right, hold on a second. Do you wear 2 rings on one finger?
I do.
Okay, so he's acknowledging that. And do your hands get cold a lot?
That's interesting you would say that, because I shook a guy's hand the other day, and he goes, "Your hand is so cold."
Yeah, exactly. And see, that is also how your husband is letting you know that he is around and aware of what's going on with you, because it's like I'm experiencing like holding your hand. This is him projecting to me, and I can feel like an iciness to your hand. And when I say icy, I certainly don't mean personality-wise. It's just your hands are cold, okay? And he says that one of the things that he always loved is how you used to make him laugh. And the way he would laugh, you would say something, he'd just sort of smirk and he'd have this little smirk and giggle thing going on. And he said that he really was listening to you, even though you used to think that he was tuning you out.
Yeah, he had a subtle laugh, but he laughed.
Exactly. That's exactly what you just said. All right, so let's get a message from him for you. What's about the month of September? He's zeroing in on September.
That's when we got married.
Bingo. Okay.
Thank you.
Wait, there's one more thing he wants to leave you with. This sounds so corny, but I'm hearing the Stevie Wonder song, "You Are the Sunshine of My Life."
Oh.
Wow, that's weird. He gave me a CD, and that was one of the songs on the CD of his favorite songs.
Oh.
What a surprise.
Yeah.
And what it is, that's him projecting that for you because he knew that would resonate with you. And you know what? What a beautiful way for him to leave, because truly he felt that you were the sunshine of his life.
That's nice. Thank you. What a
Oh.
nice reading.
How sweet. Thanks, Linda.
Bye.
Thanks, Linda. Good night.
Good night.
You
That got me teary-eyed.
You help a lot of people out, Mark.
You know, the way I look at this is that it's a calling, and, you know, I wanted to be a Catholic priest when I was a kid. And I know people laugh when I say that, but it's not unusual for a medium, and particularly in my case, to be drawn to the spiritual. But I felt that it was going to be too confining, and I always liked helping people, and that's one of the reasons I went into law. And people are like, what do you mean you went into law? Well, because to be a good lawyer, you have to put the interests of the client first. And I know that lawyers get a bad rap, and people think we're all these vampiric, blood-sucking monsters, and believe me, I can introduce you to plenty of lawyers who would fit that description, but we're not all like that. We're not all like that. The problem with the profession is that it attracts a lot of control freaks and people who are into power, control, and domination and aggression. And that's an unfortunate side effect of the practice of law. But if we didn't have a legal system and a set of laws, we would descend into madness and anarchy. So that's how I ended up in law. And then it got to the point where my ability began to emerge so heavily that I decided to accept my calling and then use this to help people communicate and make connections with their loved ones.
It's an amazing gift.
Has there ever been when you were, are you still practicing law, or no, you're doing this full time?
Well, I'm a full-time medium, author, lecturer, motivational speaker now, but I still do consulting work and legal analysis. I'm on several radio and TV shows. In fact, during Casey Anthony and Trayvon Martin and some other cases, I was doing a lot of legal commentating. You know, and then I get these bizarre things. Like some guy called me up, and he was some producer, and he was like, "Well, why can't you find Flight 370?" It's like, because I'm a medium, not a metal detector. You know, right. and the thing is, it's like I'm not all-knowing, and I do not knoweth all things. And but what I feel about Flight 370 is that this was the work of an insane person. There was a person on there that something went very, very seriously wrong with them, because if it was an act of terrorism, then a terrorist group would be running its mouth right now taking responsibility for this. And the thing is, it can't be pilot error. I mean, any experienced pilot, even if the instruments failed, would know they were flying south instead of north.
Yes.
I mean, because these guys learn how to navigate by the stars. So there was an insane person that somehow or other got control of this flight. Because where was it going? Towards Antarctica. It makes absolutely no sense. There's nothing rational about that. And that's what I've been feeling from day one, is this complete lack of rationality there. And this is like one of those mysterious shipwrecks, like there was at the Lost Dutchman, and there was a number of ships that were supposedly cursed. I mean, I'm not saying that they were, but this is one of the great mysteries of the 21st century. And I don't know if we're ever going to figure out exactly what happened.
Do you just let's call it intuition. Let's take the psychic piece out. Do you get a sense that possibly these people are still alive, or do you think they're all gone?
No, they're all gone.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's sad, but I think it's, yeah.
Well, hopefully
it would be nice to hear that they landed in the Australian outback and some James Bond villain took them, and and all that, and yeah, but that's Dr. No.
I think there's a lot more. I think there's a lot more to it than we know.
Oh, I think there is,
but
and I
don't know if we'll ever find it out. So.
A question that came in from Inception Radio for you, Mark. It says, "Does Mark, can you feel or get vibes from people over the internet, like through a chat room or through email? Do you, or is it got to be more of a phone call, a one-on-one type thing?"
I do, and I have, because I've been on some shows where they only take questions and will want me to see if I can make a connection.
Uh-huh.
I actually did a reading for somebody that was in Australia once, speaking of Australia, where I did it entirely over the internet. But since everything involves frequency, when I hear the voice, that makes the connection happen better, because everything in Never Letting Go. My book is a guide on healing grief, and I do discuss some of these concepts in it. But I have an upcoming book that's going to be released early next year that is going to explain how the frequency transfer works. And so that's why, like with the first caller, I said, please take it off speakerphone, because radio frequency interference and levels of distortion create what I call a deflector shield between me and the communication. So the clearer the transmission, the better. And telephone readings are just as accurate as in-person readings. In fact, my clientele is global. I've done readings for people from India, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Canada, Holland, of course the U.S., South America, and all over Africa, by either audio Skype or by telephone, and their readings are just as accurate. And people say, well, how is that possible? Well, first off, spirits are energy. They're consciousness, which is pure energy, and they're moving at light speed, at least. And then people say, well, that doesn't sound plausible. But then again, how is this radio show happening? You're in Utah. I'm in Florida. Okay, so I'm talking into a phone, which is going through miles of wire, getting beamed up to a whole network of satellites, getting beamed down to a collection point in Utah, zapped through miles of wire, popping out to you, then going right back when you ask me a question, and simultaneously all that's happening, being broadcast not only in Utah, but then on the internet worldwide.
Right.
Okay? Right. And what, that's not miraculous? I mean, 100 years ago, this would be impossible. 200 years ago, it would be something that Jules Verne, who wasn't even born yet, would have come up with. And 300 years ago, the three of us would have been burned at the stake for even talking about it.
That's true.
Exactly.
What would you recommend for somebody that feels like they have psychic ability, maybe to get in tune with it? Like exercises or anything like that?
Meditation and prayer. I believe that you need to have some form of belief system. Even though I was raised Catholic, I have spent most of my life, even as a child, studying other religions. I've studied Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, Mormonism, Native Americanism, Shintoism, and you find one that works for you. Because when you do this work, it's impossible to not believe in God and believe in an afterlife, because they both exist. And then meditation's very important for a lot of reasons. In fact, a lot of big corporations now are requiring their executives to learn how to meditate. And here's how I describe it. So you wake up in the morning, think of your consciousness as a blackboard. And every thought, impulse, emotional desire, reaction, anger, everything that happens, write it down on that board. So by the end of the day, what does it look like?
Crazy.
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 So meditation allows you to erase the blackboard so you can focus on one thing. I don't buy that whole think of nothing. Really?
I know. I've done this last year. When was it? 2013? Yeah, 2013. Yeah. It's 14 now. But in 2013, I started doing a little meditation. We have a friend psychic medium here, Travis Hill. He's a friend, and I've been going to his meditation, and it's really cool. I love it, and then when I leave, I get kind of, I wish I could take it with me all the time. But when I'm at home and I meditate, if I usually do it at nighttime, I usually just knock myself out and fall asleep.
Well, what I do is my meditations are usually 5, no more than 10 minutes. Because I've been in some meditation classes where, okay, you're now walking through the field of poppies, and then there's the purple pyramid by the babbling. It's like, look, I get lost.
Then you're ready to panic if you can't see the magical owl or something. I don't mean to interrupt,
the magical owl near the UFO, and I always miss the UFO because I got lost near the purple pyramid. And the thing is like I go in, I clear my mind, I open up. And what happens in my meditations is all of a sudden spirits start coming in to communicate with me, and there's ones that I'm familiar with that work with me, because we all have a set of spirits that are connected to us, and they're there for good reason, okay, because we are spiritual beings and we're all interconnected like in a vast three-dimensional spider web. Think of each of the strands on the web as being an energetic connection to both people on this side and the other side. And people say, well, it sounds like hogwash. Really? Okay, as parents, when something happens to one of your children and they're not physically with you and you just know it, do you think that's a coincidence?
No, it's not.
Exactly. You're energetically connected with them.
Well,
Now,
exactly.
right. And with spirits, because they're not encumbered by a body, the connection's even more intense. So that's why all of a sudden you start thinking about, your uncle that died, and God, I'm thinking about him, and you turn on the radio, and oh my gosh, there's the Aerosmith song that he really liked.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why do you think that happened? It's because he's aware, and he's prompting you to turn that on at that particular time. And I mean, you could go on and on and on with examples about that.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start acknowledging and realizing that we're just part of an overall connection, then it helps you. It also lets you realize that you're never really alone.
Yeah, that's a good thing too. Can you when you talk to somebody, can you like see their spirit guides or how many they have or anything like that?
I can, but the thing about that is, and with all due respect to the late, great Sylvia Brown, there's no way to verify that.
Exactly.
I'm an evidential medium. That's why, like, in the readings that I do, I ask people, I'm seeing this, does this make sense? I'm seeing this, does that? Like, if, for example, I said red and white, and she immediately said no.
Yeah.
It's like, well, let's think about it. Was there a team because that was getting prompted? Well, yeah, University of Utah's colors are red and white, and he was a big fan. Okay? These are pieces of evidence that are being transmitted from a spirit to me, and then I ask the client to receive validation.
Yeah.
Okay. Now people say, well, it sounds like BS because he could just pick red and white out of the hat. Well, I don't know. I've never been to Utah. I don't know what the colors are. I mean, do you know what the colors of the University of Florida are?
No.
Exactly.
I could guess,
do.
but I think I'll be wrong.
I think they're orange and white, aren't they?
Actually, they're orange and blue. They're orange and blue. But the thing is, these are pieces of evidence that are transmitted to me. So people say, and I remember meeting Sylvia Brown, and she was really quite wonderful and very funny. But people would ask her the goofiest questions.
Yeah, exactly.
What's my spirit guide's name, and what's my totem? And so she'd go like Demetrius and a giraffe, and it's like, well, how can that be verified?
Right.
But with some people, if they have had an experience with their spirit guide, or with an angelic entity, and that comes up, then that can be verified.
Yeah.
And so with all due respect to Ms. Brown, that doesn't mean that she was incorrect.
It just means
that there's no way to objectively verify
it. Exactly.
Right.
Do you ever, Mark, a question I've had that I've always wanted to ask people with your abilities, and you can tell, like when the first caller called, obviously you connected, the pieces of the puzzle. There was a lot of pieces of the puzzle there, but you connected pretty quickly, and of course there was a positive response. Do you sometimes get, when somebody calls you or you have a session with somebody, and you make a connection with somebody that's passed on, and the person that's alive, the person that actually calls you your client, do you ever get that, where they start getting excited because everything is starting to fit together? You're finding things out. You're bringing things to the table that only that person that has passed on would know. And I guess what I'm getting at, does that person that has passed on, that angelic spirit or that spirit, does it ever get excited because there's this conduit that's now in place?
Oh, my gosh, yes. Spirits are more excited, I think, about talking to us even than we are with them. They love to communicate with us. And, there's this thought that they're all sort of wafting around playing harps, bling, 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 I am dead, oh, no. They're on a super high vibration, and the vast majority of spirits I've communicated with are very happy, very upbeat, because they get it. They realize that our physical existence is just a countless heartbeat in the body of God and the eternal existence that we are. And they love to communicate with us for a number of reasons. One, to let us know that they're just fine. Two, to let us know that they'll see us again. And they also feel and are sympathetic to our pain, our plight, and our grieving, and they want to reach out of love to help us. So spirits do work with us to help us get through the grieving process, and they can also direct you. Like earlier, Carol, you said about the time that that you wanted to take, your daughter wanted to go with you, and you said no because something told you that. Well, very likely that was one of your spirit guides, or maybe one of your daughters that was saying not such a good idea.
Exactly. Well, right after that happened, I know someone was with me. I could feel it, like someone was there, because I actually said to myself, I don't want to go. It's not my time. And then I didn't go, and the doctors were like, I can't believe you made it through that. So.
Well, in my book, Never Letting Go, I talk quite a bit about this. And if you'll indulge me, I'll share a story where my mother, very, very super developed psychic medium, she was carrying my sister and a bunch of groceries. And at that time, my family lived in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey, and it was snowing. It was like a blizzard was coming, and it was snowing really. And she had my sister was like maybe 2. And then she had this bag of groceries. And the thing is, nothing spiritual is controlling, okay? Mm-hmm. And spirits will not intervene in your life unless it appears that your life plan is about to be deviated. Mm-hmm. And Mom was getting ready to cross the street, and all of a sudden she hears this hissing sound, and she looks through the blinding snow, and she sees these headlights. It's a bus, and it's coming right at her, and she's about to scream, and she said somebody grabbed her and pulled her up off her feet and flung her onto the sidewalk.
Yeah, I believe it. That's
except
amazing.
Nobody was there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she knew that it was a supernatural entity. And the thing is, I've talked to hundreds of people who've told me that. Now, I want to say this for the benefit of the listeners. Please, and I'm not being funny here, do not test that theory. Okay, because people are, oh, well, I can go stand on this building's ledge and my angel will come and save me. It's like, no. Okay, there will be a direct intervention if they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Okay, do not.
But mostly,
you say don't laugh, and I laugh.
You created your own destiny.
Oh, I know, but it sounds funny. But it's like, yeah, don't do that stuff. You know?
Like, I know. I just had a feeling like that night when that happened with the wreck. I know someone was there. I don't know who it was. I think I told after it happened. I know there was an angel with me then. So, and I think that's pretty amazing. I think it's amazing that what you do is amazing.
Well, it is, and it's the helping people. And like you said, and I'm sure you're. Do
you ever get tired of doing it? Do you ever go like, oh, geez.
You've heard it all, Mark. I'm sure you get the ones that say, you're nothing but a debunker. You're trying to make a buck. Hey, you're an attorney. You don't need to make a buck writing a book. You can go and practice law and make plenty of money.
Yeah, I don't have to. Well, no matter what, I'm always going to get, and you're always going to get people that are. I mean, as a lawyer, I always got people that are unhappy. Dude, you couldn't get me out of trouble. It's like, really? Well, there were 10 eyewitnesses that said you did it, okay? And they're all reputable people, and you're a, junkie.
Exactly.
Right. But there'll be people, everything you give me is vague, because I'll get some people that won't cooperate. Well, and I said, does that make sense? Well, you tell me, and they start playing games. And the thing is, that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. All right, and normally if somebody does that, I'll just we'll end the reading and I try to part on good terms. But the thing is, I know what I'm doing is real. I have done thousands of readings, and I don't know anything about the people ahead of time. It says it on my website. I don't want to know anything about them. My staff books the appointment, like the one client that called in, and I was saying, please don't tell me anything. And she's like, well, I need this and I need that. Well, people call and say, I need a reading right now. It's like, what, your relatives won't be dead in a month? But the thing is, a reading is going to happen when it is supposed to happen. And when people try to get a sense of urgency and they want this and they want that, maybe it will work out when it's supposed to. But the fact of the matter is, a legitimate medium does not want to know anything about you or the person who died ahead of time. Mm-hmm. Let me bring forth the evidence that can be verified. And then if there are questions about a death that we don't know, and I've been consulted on many, many cases, mm-hmm. and I know that I've given information to police that have helped them to develop leads and things like that, but, let the medium bring forth the evidence. don't, call up and say, okay, I want to know this because blah, 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 blah.
Exactly.
Let that happen in the reading.
Well, you're so
Mark,
right because
we've got an NBC news break coming up. Can we keep you for a little bit more, or you got to get going?
Sure.